Hopefully everything is good. Yes. Okay. So again, thanks for the invitation and thanks for letting me choose my subject, which this is my favorite subject because it's so convoluted and strange and always kind of in transformation. So it's that's why it's one of my favorite subjects to talk about. I'm going to talk about machines, human-machine interaction, smart spaces, and in general, the way we understand machinic voices, maybe interaction with robots, and the whole idea of living in a coded landscape, if we think about landscape as an auditory modality. So it's going to be like bits and pieces of this and that. And I hope after this, we get the chance to talk about different examples. I'm sure I'm only going to talk about a few examples. I know there's going to be tons of more examples you might come up with, so we can talk about those then. And this is also, as Sanne probably has told you, it's kind of grounded in two texts that are in the reading list. The one with Männistö and Sihvonen about the uncanny voices, and my text on sensory urban media experience, something. So anyway, I wanted to start with two examples. These are about 2 minutes examples, so I'll just play them first. So I hope the sound is working. The first one is a play from the 1920s. I'm sure it's familiar to you. So this is one part from Act 1, where a robot is introduced to a visitor in the factory. So we're of course...
Did you see my new typist?
I didn't notice her.
Sula, let Miss Glory see you.
So pleased to meet you. You must find it terribly dull in this out-of-the-way spot, don't you?
I don't know, Miss Glory.
Where do you come from?
From the factory.
Oh, you were born there?
I was made there.
What?
Sula is a robot. Best grade.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Sula isn't angry. See, Miss Glory, the kind of skin we make?
Oh, no,
You wouldn't know that she's made of a different material from us, would you? Talk to Miss Glory, Sula.
Please sit down.
That'll do, Sula.
Sula, this is outrageous. Why do you take part in such a hoax?
I am a robot.
No, you are not telling the truth. I know they've forced you to do it for an advertisement. Sula, you're a girl like me, aren't you?
I'm sorry, Miss Glory. Sula is a robot.
It's a lie.
What? Excuse me, Miss Glory. Then I must convince you. Marius, take Sula into the dissecting room and tell them to open her up at once.
Where?
Into the dissecting room. When they've cut her open, you can go and have a look.
No.
Excuse me. You spoke of lies.
You wouldn't have her killed.
You can't kill machines.
Don't be afraid, Sula. I won't let you go. Tell me, my dear, are they always so cruel to you? You mustn't put up with it, Sula, you mustn't.
I am a robot.
That doesn't matter. Robots are just as good as we are. Sula, you wouldn't let yourself be cut to pieces?
Yes.
You're not afraid of death, then?
I cannot tell, Miss Glory.
Do you know what would happen to you in there?
Yes. I should cease to move.
How dreadful.
So, you're probably familiar with this classic play, the Rossum's Universal Robots by Karel Čapek. This was the introductory scene where Helena meets the secretary robot Sula, and the general manager of the factory that makes the robots is kind of trying to convince her about her properties and abilities. Before going more into this, let's look at the second example, which is fast forward 100 years, and we come into this.
This is Sophia. And Sophia is a social robot, and she has artificial intelligence software that we've developed at Hanson Robotics, which can process visual data. She can see people's faces. She can process conversational data, emotional data, and use all of this to form relationships with people.
Okay, so, I mean, she's basically alive. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. She is basically alive. Would you like to maybe give it a try?
Sure.
Give it.
I'll just say, this is like, you see how awkward my first dates are. It's a robot. I'm getting nervous around a robot. A very pretty robot. What do I just say hello to?
Yeah.
Hi, Sophia.
Hello, Jimmy.
Oh, my God. Do you know where you are?
Of course. I'm in New York City, and I'm on my favorite show, The Tonight Show.
Sophia, can you tell me a joke?
Sure. What cheese can never be yours?
Cheese can never be mine. I don't know.
Nacho cheese.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I like nacho cheese.
I'm getting laughs.
Yeah.
Maybe I should host the show.
Okay, all right. Stay in your lane, girl. Now.
Okay, so here, as you see, the discourse about talking robots hasn't really changed that much. In the 1920s example, it was much about workforce, renewing workforce, and kind of the transformation of labor that was kind of the main problem, and also for Helena, if the robot is alive or not, if it should be treated as a human or not. And then in this comedy chat show, the host Jimmy Fallon kind of says in the end that, okay, even though you're making jokes, you can't replace me as the host. So these kind of interactions, these both were kind of examples of machinic voice in a way. So going to the readings, you probably maybe already read the Manister Funk and Sihvonen article. They talk about this phenomenon of the uncanny, and especially the uncanny voice, which means that you recognize something to be human-like, but then when you interact with it, there are these abrupt feelings of disgust when you realize that it's not a human, and you kind of it raises more questions of the human likeness of the, in this case, a robot. So they talk about this, how this uncanniness has been historically with us as a mode of interaction with robotics and mechanic voices. And one of the problems of these machinic voices is that it can be too smooth. Like it can be too real to actually make it feel real. So I asked Tina Manisterfunk to read out loud this example about it. So here we go. Hope it works.
As the case of Sophia demonstrates, however, human-like movement, eye contact, and even many aesthetic qualities in humanoid robots may be relatively well developed, but the voice of this machine still presents a credibility problem. In the case of Sophia, her speech appears almost too smooth in comparison with her abrupt facial expressions. And the combination of these two makes her seem disturbingly out of sync as a partner in conversation. Human voice is produced by a biological system that is, or has at least so far been, close to impossible to reproduce in a machinic form.
So, as you probably understood while listening to Sophia, her voice isn't made with a larynx and within a body, but it is a mishmash of recorded and synthesized voice. And this kind of brings up the other uncanniness of the voice, which is usually very much related to a sense of subject. So there must be a person behind the voice. So the voice is a very much like the it's an important part of presenting your subjectivity. And now I asked Tanya if he wanted to read another quote from the same text. Let's see if that works.
If speech is the implication of embodied experience, a talking robot hints at the possibility of a biological body behind the mechanical layer. This quote-unquote biocybernetic body not only forces us to ponder the limits between organic and inorganic, but through the human-machine vocalic interface, it also guides us to redefine our own status in relation to technology. Many contemporary representations of robots therefore negotiate the philosophy of artificial intelligence, of sentience and emerging consciousness, and the psychological dimension of machines and playthings becoming quote-unquote people, thus highlighting the ever-narrowing split between real and artificial humans.
Right, so there's a general problem with talking machines, and here when listening to the Sophia robot, it's few things come to fore. She's as likable as possible, and this is of course something that is programmed into her to kind of tone out the uncanniness of it, to kind of bring forth the positive and kind of smooth out the negative effects that conversing with this subject who is not there can make you feel. Right, so kind of small things about machinic voice in general. Then I'd like to kind of move forward and talk a little bit about not listening to an uncanny voice, but maybe talking and conversing with a machine. We don't have robots like that in our everyday life, these kind of with a human form and a face and so on. But what we do talk with every day are the speech recognition technology. So we talk to machines almost daily, and here of course I'm talking about Siri and Alexa and these kind of technologies and apps that use that are kind of personal assistants, as they are kind of called, I think. So when talking to machines, well, I'm speaking English now. If I would have a automatic caption program running on the background here, it would probably understand quite well my English, I hope, or at least somehow. But if I would be doing this in Finnish, it would struggle, because of course the speech recognition depends on the database it can use, and this has found some problems or at least it's a challenge for apps and technologies to understand the multiple ways people talk, and how also in English language how different accents are used, and so on. As a example, there is a crowdsourcing campaign going on in Finland at the moment, endorsed by the Finnish broadcasting company, so a public in the public sector, called Donate Speech, lahjoita puhetta. It's an app that gathers data of different kinds of Finnish vocalizations, and then it's been used to program apps that work in Finnish. One interesting thing that Mari Thompson has brought to the fore, just a month ago, she had a keynote lecture in the RMA conference in Goldsmiths. She was talking about this post-mom economy, with which she means that these kind of digital platforms aim to commodify the reproductive labor associated with mothering. So all these female-voiced apps, which are very docile and as kind as possible and very smooth and nice, they kind of they are adapted or domesticated into this kind of post-mom economy. So things that you would like ask your mom to do or kind of help you out is kind of transferred to these apps. It's a very nice way to think about how these apps are domesticated, and especially the gendered aspects it has. Right. Going forward, if we now move to from this kind of interacting with a robot, with a machinic voice, and talking with speech recognition technology, or kind of these kind of intelligent apps, we can then maybe move on to a larger context. So think about not only how these kind of relations between subject and object are kind of formed, but maybe how do we live in an environment that is kind of bound in a network of code. So I would now use the term code space, which is a term by Rob Kitchen and Martin Dodge. They have a background in geography, but they are in software studies, or they do software studies. So I would like to now kind of weave critical software studies into auditory culture studies. And with code space, they mean a spatial formation or a production of space that is kind of dependent on code. So it can't perform its spatial attributes without this kind of pervasive software and coded assemblages, as they say. An easy example they give is an airport. So an airport has like several coded even institutions that a person, if you want to get to a plane, you have to go through. So you buy the ticket, and you go to the security, and then there's the customs, and then there's the tax-free, and then there's all kinds of like you kind of walk through all kinds of databases that kind of make it possible for you to enter the plane. So if some of these software, pervasive software steps kind of collapse, the space is no longer an airport in a way that it can't perform its airportness for the passenger to get to the plane. So that's like one example. So we live in these kind of coded spaces, and soon I will demonstrate a few examples, especially from the auditory aspect. But before going there, I would like to make a small disclaimer. I'm not a computer scientist, of course not. I'm an ethnomusicologist, so my job is not to kind of be analyze what the code does. So I don't have that kind of a background knowledge of codes, but what I'm interested is how we understand what the code does. So I'm interested in domestication, about everyday environments, and the kind of the imaginary we give. There are some kind of layers of agency we kind of outsource, give to technology. So I'm interested in this kind of social aspect of the technology. So just a small disclaimer here. And this, of course, means that I can only talk about this kind of experiential layer of these coded spaces or code spaces. And I usually think of Taina Bucher, who writes about this dilemma of social scientists working with software, that there is a metaphor of the black box. I'm sure you've heard about it, that artificial intelligence, or like these complex algorithms are presented to us as a black box. So you don't know what it's so complicated. You don't know how the technology does it, how it's so like it has almost a mind of its own. Nobody knows how it really works in the end. So it's kind of this mystery metaphor for these programs that we kind of live in. But Taina Bucher has a very nice attitude, or a kind of a solution for social scientists and humanists. So don't fear the black box, don't expect the solution to be inside the black box, and consider the boxing of the box. So exactly, we're not interested in the tech per se, but we're interested in how it works in society or culture, or environment, sonic environment, for example. Right, a few themes that, in my view, are interesting in relation to this collision of software studies and auditory culture studies. One is automation. So let's see. So automation is kind of the basis of how code works. So as Catherine Hales has written, the basis of this anxiety we have towards automation technology that runs on automation, or the optimism we have towards it, it kind of it's based on this assumption that humans and machines are very much alike in how they in what they are seeking. So this is a cybernetic thought. So humans and machines are goal-seeking mechanisms that learn, and the learning happens in corrective feedback. And then after the necessary feedback, you reach a stable state called homeostasis. So what happens here is that there needs to be a huge amount of reduction of complex and situated behavior for information processing to happen. So it's kind of it reduces. Reduction is how automation works, right? So this is of course something that we need to be critical about. So automation, because it's reductive, it changes the object it automates. right? So because it's changed, it's a question of disciplinary power, and this is what Adrian Mackenzie, anthropologist, has talked about a lot. And this disciplinary power kind of is present in our everyday life in ways of algorithmic power. And you probably have heard about these problems of algorithmic power in mundane situations like Facebook feed and face recognition technology, and how they are biased and things like that. So sound is no different from that. And automation. Now I lost my thought, but I'm coming back. Yes, automation. Examples of smart spaces or code spaces that would be grounded in sound. One example is virtual acoustics. For example, in Tampere, where I live, there is a live music venue called G Live Lab, and this is a picture from there, which is in which virtual acoustic is embedded. So it's a collage of about 50 active loudspeakers that run on a program, or the it can be used in live music so that it kind of incorporates another acoustic space inside this space. So a very, very meticulous and small scale play on reverberation and things like that. So even if this is a very small old industry space, which is, of course, it has been renovated and it has good acoustics. I mean, the reverberation has been taken off or minimized, but it still doesn't really it doesn't sound like a concert hall. Of course not. For example, I went to see a Baroque music concert, and they used the virtual acoustics so that it sounded as we would have been in a very nice chamber music hall. So a kind of mesmerizing experience, but this, of course, is part of the wow elements of new technology that often happens as kind of part of the domestication of the technology, to have these wow experiences. So I had that there. One thing that kind of this wow thing leads to another discourse on smart spaces, and this is you probably know the discourse on smart cities. So it's a kind of a economical, political tendency to add infrastructural solutions that are based on code. Like that. That's like the general idea of the smart city. And the smart city, of course, it has been criticized a lot. Like where's the intelligence? Where does the smart live? And is it only about the newest tech and kind of yet again a new way to enhance economical possibilities for businesses? But still, it's interesting that it it's kind of based in the same kind of cybernetic idea that Hales was, when I mentioned Hales, she was talking about earlier. So just to quote Krivi, the smart city is embedded in the intellectual framework of second order cybernetics and articulates urban subjectivity in terms of data flows. So we're talking about gathering of large amounts of data. Planning as a political practice is superseded by an environmental behavioral control in which subjectivity is articulated supra-individually, meaning permeating the city with sensing nodes, and infra-individually making citizens into sensing nodes. So this of course is a discourse that can be criticized, and it kind of brings forward the idea of people living in this kind of a web of data. What I kind of like more is to use this term by Minna Saarikato. She talks about landscapes of code. So what kind of imaginaries or agency so-called ordinary people hold in their code-based everyday environments. An example of these kinds of smart environments that are based on auditory modality. Here we have a nice picture of a, I don't know, Ford, Volvo, I don't know, a car with a smart space inside. So it has active noise cancellation. There are microphones scattered around, and then it kind of it has a real-time noise cancellation program running inside the car, so the engine noise is not disrupted, so the driver still hears the engine because it's important for the driving experience, but other sound deemed as noise in this case would be filtered out. Also, as Sanne said, my current interest is in background music in commercial spaces. So these providers have also kind of turned toward this concept of, or the discourse of the smart city. So background music is also kind of slowly evolving into, as we see in this advert here of DJ online firm, that music has become a crucial part of brand building and sensory marketing. So they now kind of cater these kinds of more, should I say, immersive and effectual musics for businesses. Sensory marketing, they call it. I think I'm slowly running out of time, so I will hurry up a bit. One of my okay, so now we were talking about automation, like subject object interaction, and then we had a few words about how a code is kind of embedded environment, how it could be a pervasive factor. And then last but not least, I'd like to talk about the third thematic that would be about attention and distraction. And this is a theme that I connect with personal listening technology and also machine listening. So this is also, it has a, it's kind of grounded in the idea that a human is a productive, economically productive, that cannot perform well if distracted. So it kind of has this a certain certain ideology behind it. And if we look at some of the everyday personal listening technology around, for example, noise cancellation technology, which of course we are using now, as Zoom has a very nice noise cancelling algorithm. I think I read it somewhere that it works quite well. But anyway, so in addition to that, the noise cancelling headphone industry is booming, and it is marketed as or sold with this idea that a noise-free, wire-free, stress-free, as in the Sony headphones. So you kind of the distraction is something that you can get rid of with noise cancelling headphones, and then you are in a more productive mode, for example. But then again, if we think about this personnel technology, we must remember that the model human in this ideology is somebody who is very able. So there is, of course, technology for people of hard of hearing, for example, in which the algorithmic components are, or the algorithms are much more complex and kind of catering for a different affordances. Here's an example of this is a Signia hearing aid, which is a kind of a cutting edge product, or where you can kind of override the acoustic environment so that you can directly stream into the app, into the hearing aid, for example, television or contents or whatnot. So it kind of overrides the sonic environment and enhances certain things depending on the algorithmic setting or the program setting you use. And then if we go one step even further for from hard of hearing to deaf people, then we have technology of the cochlear implant, for example, which is not an enhancer of the sound environment per se, but it is an actual a machine that produces the sensory phenomena by making small electrical impulses directly into the hearing organs. So here we are in a situation where the sound environment is very much listened through code. So it's not only enhanced or what's the word, augmented by code, but it is made by these algorithms that are based on certain levels of automation. Right. I see we're 50 minutes in. Right. So about distraction and attention. In this thematic, I would like to give the final word to Susanna Pasonen, who's been studying distraction in social media quite a lot, and she has come into the conclusion that the dichotomy between distraction and attention would actually be a bit better if we thought about it in terms of adaptation into rhythms. So what happens is that our attention is shifting quite rapidly, and this is what we adapt to, and it's not about being distracted or having attention. So it's kind of a, well, let's see her, listen to her quote.
Rather than mutually opposing concepts, attention and distraction are better understood as variation in the intensities and zones of perception and experience. As such, attention and distraction, coupled to the novel perceptual speeds and the accelerated circulation of sensory stimulus within capitalism, require constant adaptability in an ongoing and perpetually modulating process that would never pause in order for individual subjectivity to accommodate and catch up with it.
And that was, of course, Microsoft Kate we heard. Right. So in an optimal situation, I would be now disrupted and asked questions and whatnot. But because I don't really know how this is coming together, maybe it's better to kind of me to stop talking now. And my full reference list is on my website. I will update it as soon as we end this session now. So yes, thank you for listening, and I'm very much looking forward to having a conversation with you all. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Meri. That was very fascinating and interesting. Thank you a lot.